Wickstrom.substack.com. Checkmate, The Triumph of Technocracy. Eric Wickstrom. 28 to 36 minuter. I invite you to temporarily set aside your preconceptions about how the world works. I know this may run counter to everything you believe, everything you think you know about what's happening in our world. The truth goes much deeper than the surface-level chaos we see in the headlines. I sincerely hope I'm wrong about this analysis. In fact, I pray that I am. But if I'm even partially correct, we are witnessing one of the most sophisticated power grabs in human history. We are living through a historic transition of power, the shift from a corrupt facade democracy to an AI-driven technocracy controlled by Silicon Valley billionaires. While this unfolds, most observers are, as usual, focused on the wrong signals, missing the larger pattern of what's actually happening. And what's happening isn't isolated to the United States, it's a global agenda that will reshape every aspect of our lives. What makes this moment unique isn't just the scale of the transformation, but its inevitability. The technological infrastructure required for total control has finally matured. Artificial intelligence has reached the sophistication necessary for algorithmic governance. The social and political chaos we're experiencing isn't random, it's orchestrated to create the perfect conditions for this transition. Consider this: Elon Musk alone controls enough wealth to simultaneously fund 8 Manhattan projects, maintain a private army of 100,000 elite mercenaries for a decade, or fund the entire United Nations for 14 years. But this isn't about money, it's about power. The tech elite already have more wealth than they could spend in multiple lifetimes. What they're pursuing is something far more ambitious: total control over society's future development. The genius of their strategy lies in its complexity. Like a masterfully played chess game, every move serves multiple purposes. What appears as chaos is actually a precisely choreographed sequence of events. What looks like resistance is often part of the plan. Even this analysis, should it reach a wider audience, would likely be dismissed as paranoid speculation, which is exactly what makes the strategy so effective. I see tremendous potential in the revolution unfolding around us. The promise of AI, the possibility of more efficient and just governance, the dream of liberation, these are all within our reach. But I fear we're being led down a darker path, one that uses these same technologies to establish unprecedented control rather than freedom. In this analysis, I'll attempt to decode the pattern behind what's happening, reveal the philosophical blueprint guiding these changes, and expose the systematic implementation already underway. The insights come from hundreds of hours studying elite writings, tracking their actions, and mapping the connections between seemingly unrelated events. What emerges is a picture both fascinating and terrifying: a coordinated effort to fundamentally restructure society, using Trump as a tool, democracy as a stepping stone, and artificial intelligence as the ultimate instrument of control. The most crucial question isn't whether this transformation is happening, it's whether we can recognize it in time to influence its direction. Let's begin by examining how we got here, and why this moment in history provides the perfect conditions for what's about to unfold. What began with subtle changes in society's foundation has revealed itself as something far more calculated. The growing polarization, the accelerating technological revolution, the institutional breakdowns, none of these were random events. They formed the opening moves in a transformation so ambitious that even describing it risks sounding implausible. 3 elements converged to create the perfect conditions for change. First, a strategic erosion of trust. Government agencies making decisions that seemed designed to undermine their own credibility. Media organizations abandoning even the pretense of objectivity in ways that destroyed their authority. Political processes long ago devolved into such obvious theater that they undermine the entire system's legitimacy. Second, a precise channeling of public frustration. Rather than focusing on specific targets, anger fragmented and turned inward against the society itself. Left and right polarized beyond dialogue. Different social groups found themselves in perpetual conflict. Each attempt at reconciliation or compromise failed in ways that deepened divisions. Third, the emergence of technology sophisticated enough to enable total control. For the first time in history, the technical capability exists to implement governance through algorithms, monitor populations comprehensively, and automate resource allocation across entire societies. This transformation follows a classic pattern: problem, reaction, solution. Problem. Create or amplify problems severe enough that the population demands change. Reaction. Wait for the reaction: frustration, anger, calls for reform. Solution. Present solutions that would never be accepted under normal circumstances. The execution of this formula shows remarkable sophistication. Each crisis connects to the next. Every institutional failure creates specific vulnerabilities. Each scandal opens the door for predetermined solutions. What makes this moment unique isn't just these individual elements, but their perfect synchronization. The technological capability has matured exactly as social structures weaken and power concentrates in the hands of those with a specific vision for humanity's future. Consider how each aspect reinforces the others. Digital platforms replace traditional information sources just as trust in media collapses. AI systems emerge as alternatives to human judgment right as faith in institutions fails. Private infrastructure displaces public services precisely when government credibility hits historic lows. This isn't coincidence. These changes follow a design so precise that it remained invisible until its effects became almost irreversible. Like a master chess player's strategy, the true pattern only becomes clear when the position is already won. We're witnessing more than a political realignment or technological revolution. This is a fundamental restructuring of society, a transformation that uses our legitimate frustrations with failing systems to implement something far more controlling. The true scope of this change remains hidden because its architects speak in the language of progress, efficiency, and innovation. They present each step as a natural evolution rather than what it is, a calculated move toward a new form of social organization. To understand how this transformation operates in practice, we need to examine its most visible manifestation, the carefully orchestrated performance centered around Donald Trump. In this atmosphere of systemic collapse, the perfect outsider emerged. A figure so improbable, so controversial, so seemingly chaotic that no one could suspect his role was precisely choreographed. Donald Trump appeared as the antithesis to the system people had lost faith in, the ultimate anti-establishment rebel. But this was no accident. It was the next act in a brilliantly executed performance. A chess master wins not through individual moves, but by creating positions where every opponent's move strengthens their strategy. This perfectly describes the Trump phenomenon. Each attempt to stop him made him stronger, every attack increased his immunity, all resistance cemented his position. The pattern was too perfect to be coincidental. Media attacked him relentlessly, but always in ways that confirmed his fake news narrative. Federal investigations launched with great fanfare, only to end in anticlimaxes that strengthened his position. Leaks emerged with peculiar timing, always maximizing their effect, not against Trump, but for his agenda. It was like watching a boxing match where every punch from the opponent somehow builds the champion's strength rather than depleting it. Just take his opponent in the presidential race as the ultimate example of the theatrical shit show. There stood the establishment's champion, demonstrating in real time why the system needed disruption. An aging politician struggling with basic articulation and climbing stairs. The establishment's representative barely able to represent himself. The system's defender personifying its decay. The true brilliance emerged in the legal arena. What appeared to the public as desperate attempts to stop Trump revealed themselves as essential components of the plan. On the surface, each prosecution strengthened his martyrdom. Every investigation, every case, every attack confirmed the narrative of the system versus Trump. His supporters saw persecution, his opponents saw danger, both reactions served the plan's purpose. But beneath this obvious theater lay something far more strategic. These prosecutions systematically created the legal framework needed for what's to come. Court decisions about presidential immunity during office, presented as efforts to ensure Trump could face justice, instead built the perfect legal shield for future action. Before these cases, a president's immunity was unclear. Afterward, it became nearly absolute. Most crucial were the specific precedents established. The courts granted extraordinary powers to sitting presidents while appearing to close in on Trump. Combined with the pardon power, this creates a perfect shield. A president can act without legal constraint while in office, and can simply pardon any allies who carry out their agenda. What the public saw as the justice system pursuing Trump was actually the systematic creation of legal immunity for the coming transformation. Both sides of the establishment, those appearing to prosecute and those appearing to defend, played their roles in constructing this framework. The true game operated at a level above these apparent conflicts. Each element of resistance played its role perfectly. His establishment opposition demonstrated exactly why the system needed a complete reset. Media criticism proved their bias and untrustworthiness. Congressional challenges showed the ineffectiveness of traditional checks and balances. The culmination came with the alleged assassination attempt, an event so perfectly timed, so dramatically staged that it transformed Trump from a political figure into something almost messianic. The timing within the campaign cycle, the spectacle of the event, the miraculous survival, all contributed to creating the ultimate justification for what was to come. This was the moment when Trump transcended ordinary politics. He was no longer just a candidate, he was the chosen one, the survivor, the man they had tried to silence but failed. Every future countermeasure, no matter how extreme, could now be justified as necessary self-defense. But while the world focused on this political drama, this seemingly epic battle between establishment and outsider, the real game proceeded behind the scenes. Trump was never meant to be the true rebel who would crush the system. He was the perfect tool for implementing a new, more sophisticated form of control. Like a masterful illusion, the audience focused so intently on the obvious conflict that they missed the real transformation occurring backstage. While everyone watched Trump versus the deep state, in the shadows, the real players methodically positioned themselves to assume control of society's fundamental functions. A new power elite, with a vision far beyond traditional politics, prepared to step onto the stage when the old order imploded under the weight of its own apparent incompetence. To understand the true nature of this transformation, we must examine the philosophical blueprint guiding it, a vision first articulated by Silicon Valley's hidden philosopher. Behind the money and influence flowing into the Trump campaign lies a set of radical beliefs and a dark agenda. The tech elite of Silicon Valley believe the American empire stands on the verge of collapse. Rather than prevent this collapse, they aim to accelerate it while creating safe landing zones for themselves and their assets, territories where they can run their own governments. Elon Musk and his growing empire represented the visible spearhead of this movement. Through his control over everything from space travel to social communication, he was systematically building the infrastructure required for the new order. But Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, Balaji Srinivasan, Mark Andreessen, and other tech brothers would also play key roles, which I will delve into later. Yet, these tech billionaires were only the visible actors. Behind them lay a vision so radical that it initially seemed unthinkable, a vision shaped by Silicon Valley's secret philosopher. Under the pseudonym Mencius Moldbug, a San Francisco programmer named Curtis Yarvin wrote a series of essays that would transform Silicon Valley's worldview. His concept, which he calls patchwork, envisions a world where the failed democratic system is replaced by thousands of corporate-run territories, each governed by its own joint stock company without regard for residents' opinions. In Yarvin's vision, nations dissolve into corporate-run territories. Democracy yields to CEO dictators. Citizens become customers. Rights become services. Governance becomes algorithmic. His early writings were shockingly direct about the implications. When discussing surplus populations, he proposed either using them as biodiesel or containment in virtual reality prisons. While he later claimed the biodiesel comment was a joke, he remained serious about the digital prisons. When Balaji Srinivasan presented his concept of network states, he performed a masterful repackaging of Yarvin's ideas. The dark vision of corporate dictatorships transformed into something that could be presented at TED Talks. Corporate dictatorship became startup society. Total surveillance became digital community. Forced compliance became opt-in governance. Social control became community standards. These aren't mere theoretical discussions. Peter Thiel, beyond his company Palantir, invested $15 million in J.D. Vance's Senate campaign, the largest single donation to a Senate campaign in history. Elon Musk took control of global communications through Twitter/X. Mark Andreessen and others are actively funding experimental cities. The tech elite justify their position by seeing themselves as courageous geniuses on the new frontier. This isn't speculation, they say it openly in podcasts, conferences, interviews, and blog posts. Some speak quietly, others loudly, but they share a common vision. Replace democratic governance with corporate rule. Substitute human judgment with AI systems. Create territories beyond traditional state control. Implement total surveillance under the guise of security. The implementation is already underway. Trump's Freedom Cities on federal land. Charter cities in Honduras. Network state experiments in various countries. Digital currency initiatives. AI governance systems. Each project serves as a prototype for their larger vision. When Trump speaks of building new freedom cities on federal land, he's describing Yarvin's patches in new packaging. When tech billionaires invest in charter cities, they're creating test beds for corporate governance. What makes this transformation so effective is how it appeals to different groups. Progressives see potential for post-national organization. Libertarians embrace promises of freedom from state control. Conservatives welcome a return to traditional values in modern form. Tech enthusiasts celebrate disruption of old systems, not to mention the transhumanist agenda. Each group projects their hopes onto the concept while missing the underlying agenda of total corporate control. Artificial intelligence isn't just another technology in this vision, it's the key enabler. AI provides the means to replace human judgment. Tools for total surveillance. Systems for resource allocation. Justification for eliminating democratic input. When tech leaders discuss AI safety and control, they're laying groundwork for a new form of social organization. To understand how this vision translates into action, we must examine its current implementation through what Yarvin called rage. The tech elite's vision isn't merely theoretical, it's being actively implemented through a coordinated strategy. At its center stands a concept Curtis Yarvin calls rage: retire all government employees. Does it ring a bell yet? While it sounds like a catchy slogan for administrative reform, it masks a detailed plan to methodically dismantle the entire state apparatus. The strategy is devastatingly simple. Identify experienced civil servants who maintain democratic processes and can say no to illegal orders. Create impossible working conditions through constant reorganizations and conflicting directives. Replace departing personnel with a combination of, mostly young, ideological loyalists and automated systems. When seasoned officials leave, they take with them the institutional memory of how democratic processes should function, the ability to identify and stop illegal actions, and the systems of checks and balances that protect against abuse of power. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, serves as the vehicle for this transformation. Under Elon Musk's direction, what's presented as modernization reveals itself as rage in action. Mass layoffs labeled as efficiency measures. Elimination of oversight described as streamlining. Transfer of state functions to tech companies called modernization. Replacement of human judgment with AI branded as optimization. As Yarvin himself expressed it, to install a new operating system, you must first shut down the old one. Rage is Control-Alt-Delete for the state. Tech elites have methodically positioned key players in critical roles. Like pieces on a chessboard, each serves a specific function in the larger strategy. Elon Musk, through DOGE, directs the dismantling of state functions while positioning his companies to replace them. Starlink for internet control. X/Twitter, which will become an everything app for informational and financial control. XAI for decision systems. Tesla and SpaceX for physical infrastructure. Peter Thiel operates more subtly through Palantir and his network of allies, building the surveillance and control infrastructure that the new order will require. His influence extends from national security to financial systems. I'll talk more about Palantir later. J.D. Vance represents a particularly sophisticated placement. With his strong connection to Peter Thiel, working-class background, and Yale education, he moves seamlessly between worlds. When he speaks of reforming bureaucracy, he uses language that sounds harmless to most but signals a darker agenda to initiates. Unlike traditional authoritarian transformations that moved slowly to avoid resistance, this operation shows no such caution. The sprint toward the goal suggests either complete confidence in success, a race against time, control of AI, strong contingency plans. While media focuses on political drama, the real transformation proceeds. State functions transfer to private control. Democratic processes yield to automation. New control systems install piece by piece. Each resistance reinforces the plan. Criticism of tech companies justifies more neutral AI governance. Concerns about democracy validate efficiency measures. Protests against surveillance legitimize stronger control systems. As Yarvin predicted, the perfect revolution looks like inevitable technological progress. Each implemented change creates dependencies that make reversal increasingly difficult. Digital payment systems replace traditional banking. I will dive deep into Bitcoin's role in this in a future article. Corporate platforms supersede government communications. Private infrastructure displaces public services. AI systems become essential for basic functions. By the time the transformation becomes obvious, the new system will be too deeply embedded to easily dislodge. To understand where this leads, we must examine the New World Order being constructed. Once the state apparatus has been dismantled through rage/doge and control centralized through tech companies, what comes next? The tech elite's vision for the future is both more concrete and more alarming than most realize: a system where human value reduces to pure economic utility, and the very concept of citizenship transforms fundamentally. Welcome to the Nerd Reich. In this new order, a nation is nothing more than a company. There are no citizens, only customers and shareholders. No constitution, only corporate rules. No rights, only services that can be purchased or earned through value creation for the system. As a citizen in this corporate state, you're effectively a customer buying social services. But unlike a normal market, you have no choice. Each territorial patch is a monopoly. Your only path to influence is buying shares in the territory, giving you power proportional to your capital. It's plutocracy in its purest form. Society divides into clearly defined zones, each with its specific purpose. These form the corporate state's core territories. Here, total surveillance masks as safety and security. There are no crimes here, because every movement is tracked, every communication analyzed, every transaction monitored. Biometric scanning becomes as basic as electricity. Your access to resources depends on AI systems constantly evaluating your value to the system. One misstep can lead to immediate status downgrade. Areas where the system's surplus population gets relegated. Here, there's no access to modern technology, no digital payment systems, no path to build a future. These places are designed to be uncomfortable enough that residents either motivate themselves to become valuable to the system or simply disappear from its radar. Perhaps the darkest aspect of this new order. For those deemed problematic, a humane solution emerges: permanent storage in virtual worlds. Here, surplus humans can exist without burdening system resources, while their consciousness trains AI systems. Most shocking about this new order is how it cuts through today's established social classes. A well-paid lawyer whose expertise AI replaces, a successful businessman whose activities don't contribute to technological development, a respected academic whose research generates no measurable value, all might suddenly find themselves classified as surplus. In this world, there's no middle ground. You're either a valuable resource for the system or a burden to be managed. Your status depends not on traditional merit or wealth, but on your direct utility to the technocratic system. What makes our time unique is not just the ambitions of the tech elite, it's the fact that technology has finally reached a level where total control is technically feasible. AI is no longer just a tool for efficiency, it is the perfect instrument for implementing Yarvin's vision of algorithmic governance. The infrastructure is already being built, piece by piece. Elon Musk's corporate empire forms the backbone of this system. Starlink provides control over the internet, X/Twitter over information and communication, XAI develops the algorithms that will dictate decision-making, while Tesla and SpaceX control critical physical infrastructure. Each component is designed to integrate seamlessly with the others. At the same time, Peter Thiel, through Palantir, is constructing the world's most sophisticated surveillance system. What began as a tool for counter-terrorism has evolved into a comprehensive mechanism for population control, already deployed by governments worldwide. With this, we already have a system capable of predicting and preventing undesirable behavior before it happens, identifying and neutralizing potential opposition, automatically adjusting resource allocation based on social merit, implementing total control without visible coercion. The genius lies in how this is framed as objective and efficient governance. When an AI denies you access to resources or opportunities, it's not oppression, it's just optimization. When the system restricts your movement, it's not control, it's smart resource management. But beneath the surface, these systems are built on values and objectives programmed by the tech elite. As Yarvin put it, code is law, and he who controls the code, controls the law. The promised efficiency masks the elimination of human agency and democratic input. I will talk more about the emergence of AGI, artificial general intelligence, and ACI, artificial superintelligence, that it's closer than we think, and its implications in another article. What makes this transformation permanent is how deeply it embeds in society's basic functions. Essential services require digital ID. Resources allocate through AI systems. Communication depends on corporate platforms. Basic survival needs corporate system access. By the time the transformation becomes obvious, the infrastructure will be too fundamental to remove, like trying to remove electricity from modern society, technically possible but practically impossible. As Yarvin wrote, when the new operating system is installed, there's no going back, exactly as it should be. To understand our options, if any remain, we must examine the false choice being presented and the narrow window for influence that still exists. We face something humanity has never encountered before, a concentration of power that lacks historical precedent. The AI revolution and digital infrastructure's total penetration create possibilities for control that previous generations' dictators could only dream of. The question isn't whether this power will exist, but who will control it and to what end. The most treacherous aspect of our situation is how it's presented as a choice between two alternatives. On one side stands a corrupt establishment slowly creeping toward total control. On the other, tech elite innovative solutions sprinting toward exactly the same goal. This is the ultimate deception, making us believe we must choose between different paths to our own subjugation. The old system is genuinely corrupt and dysfunctional. This corruption is real and creates legitimate yearning for change. But the tech elite's solutions are designed to exploit this yearning, implementing something far worse under the guise of modernization, innovation, and efficiency. The path forward isn't simple. What makes this moment particularly challenging is that both sides serve the same agenda. Every choice within the system is rigged. The tech elite aren't our saviors, they're next generation oppressors, more sophisticated and therefore more dangerous than anything we've seen before. We must reject this rigged game where every choice leads to the same result. This means refusing both the establishment's corruption and the tech elite's false solutions. It means actively seeking and supporting genuine alternatives that preserve human dignity and freedom. I see tremendous potential in the technological revolution unfolding around us. AI could aid human intelligence rather than replace human agency. Digital systems could enhance democracy rather than eliminate it. Technology could liberate rather than control. Innovation could serve humanity rather than subjugate it. The tragedy is that we're being led down a darker path, one that uses these same technologies to establish unprecedented control rather than liberation. Every reform presented will package itself as modernization and freedom, while moving us closer to tech elite's vision. Technology will continue advancing. AI will grow more powerful. Digital infrastructure will penetrate every aspect of our lives. This is inevitable. But who controls these systems, and in whose interest they operate, that remains open for influence. We have a very brief window where we can still affect the outcome. Once the systems are in place, once the digital infrastructure is cemented, once AI control becomes total, there's no obvious way back. We need development that harnesses technology's possibilities without surrendering control to an elite that has shown zero interest in humanity's common good. We need modernization that doesn't eliminate our freedom, efficiency that doesn't require total surveillance. This might sound impossible. With the concentration of power and technology the tech elite has already built, it may seem like the game is over. But passive acceptance of our transformation into digital serfs in an AI-driven plutocracy isn't an option. This isn't a battle we chose. But in this new world of technological dominance, only two outcomes exist: either we control technology, or it controls us. The window for influence is closing rapidly, but it hasn't shut completely. I hope deeply that this analysis is wrong. That the pattern I see is an overreaction, an exaggerated interpretation of coincidences. Because if it's right, we're witnessing the most sophisticated coup in human history, one that uses our desire for change to eliminate the very possibility of freedom. Yet even within this dark analysis, I see potential for optimism. The same technologies being used to build control systems could be redirected toward liberation. The energy for change could be channeled toward genuine reform rather than disguised oppression. The question isn't whether to embrace technological progress, it's how to ensure this progress serves humanity rather than subjugates it. We still have a chance to influence this direction, but that chance diminishes with each passing day. This is not a battle between right and left, between establishment and outsiders, or even between democracy and authoritarianism. This is a battle over the very definition of human freedom in the technological era. The time to influence this definition is rapidly running out. Do you see it too? Or am I missing something? Have I completely misjudged the situation? Am I just being paranoid? Maybe we are on the verge of breaking free from the hidden oppression that has kept humanity in economic chains and confusion, moving toward a new, freer technological utopia. I'm sure that vision is within reach. But unfortunately, I don't believe that's where we, as a global population, are being led right now. What do you think? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for reading. This post is public, so feel free to share it.